Oh, hello. My name is Arizona Smith. I'm an archaeologist, and I just got back from an incredible trip to Central America. Let me show you a little of what I saw. Down here, the jungle can be really thick. It's difficult to travel, and you have to watch out for the snakes. But if you look carefully, you can discover some unexpected and amazing things. Like this. And take a look at this. Buried in the jungles of Central America and Mexico are the remains of great cities. They were built by people called the Maya more than 1,500 years ago. The discovery of these ruins is one of the most exciting chapters in archaeology, and we're still uncovering more every year. At its height, the Maya realm was made up of dozens of small city-states, stretching from the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico all the way into Central America. Cities with names like Palenque, Tikal, Copan. Dozens of them had populations numbering in the tens of thousands. That's quite a lot in those days. Bit by bit, we're piecing together the history of this great civilization. Fortunately, the Maya left us some clues, including a system of picture writing, kind of like Egyptian hieroglyphs. And in the ancient city of Palenque, they left us a buried treasure deep within a pyramid. In the jungles of southern Mexico are the ruins of an ancient Maya city called Palenque. 1,400 years ago, it was very grand. But mysteriously, by 800 AD, its houses, palaces, and temples were deserted. The jungle slowly crept in, and the city was forgotten. Almost 1,000 years later, a Spanish priest discovered the ruins. In the centuries since, archaeologists have slowly uncovered many Maya treasures, giving us a new appreciation for the rich history of the Americas. But the most exciting discovery of all took place right here in Palenque. In 1949, an archaeologist named Alberto Ruz came to this ruined city on a routine dig. Since many others had dug inside the ancient pyramid before him, no one expected Ruz to find anything special. No one had guessed that a Maya pyramid could be like an Egyptian one, the burial place of a king. But Ruz and his men were persistent. They dug beneath the pyramid floor for 3 years, finally uncovering a huge sarcophagus, or coffin. Its lid was so big and heavy, the men had to use automobile jacks to pry it open. But what a sight! Inside was a skeleton covered with precious jewels like jade and mother of pearl. It took another 15 years to decipher the writing on the sarcophagus, but Ruz had uncovered the tomb of Lord Pakal, king of Palenque for much of the 7th century. His tomb is the grandest ever to be discovered in the Americas. Some experts consider the reign of Lord Pakal, more than 1,300 years ago, the height of Maya civilization. But remember, Pakal was king of only one city-state. There were hundreds of others scattered throughout the Maya world, each with its own king and army. Let's move back in time a little. The first Maya were farmers, growing crops like corn and beans. Between the years 300 BC and 250 AD, their villages grew and became cities, ruled by kings who directed all aspects of life in the city and the area around it. The king of each city-state was also the religious leader. Every job or activity in Maya life had a patron god. There was also a supreme being and creator, a sun god, a moon god, even a god of corn called Yum-Kush. Yum. You suppose the Maya were expressing how they felt about corn? Anyway, the people believed the king was descended from the gods and could communicate with his ancestors, making sure of a good harvest or victory in battle. For special religious ceremonies, the king would climb to the top of the Great Pyramid and all the people would gather in the city below. To the Maya, it took courage to be king and communicate with the gods. And it also took blood, the king's blood, believed to have special powers. After drawing his blood, the king would rejoin his people and offer his blood to the gods. Sometimes the gods would require even more. Prisoners, slaves, and sometimes children and young women would be sacrificed to maintain order in the universe. The people of the city would perform a ritual dance until dawn.
How many of you recycle? Well, you're in good company. The ancient Maya practiced recycling too. Each family would take their trash to a nearby dump, and whenever a city built a new pyramid, they would use the stuff from the dump as filling.
Maya cities were dominated by huge stone pyramids built to inspire awe among the people. At the top would be an enormous figure of the ruler, visible for miles around. A roof comb of ornamental stonework reached toward the sky. The Maya rarely destroyed a place of worship. When they wanted a new temple, they simply built on top of the old one. The center of the city was reserved for religious ceremonies and dances. Here also lived the royal family and its attendants in stone palaces with many rooms, and the elite families who conducted religious and administrative business. The people lived on the outskirts of the city. Most of their houses were built of wood and thatch, and only some of the foundations have survived. Tikal, in Guatemala, is sometimes called the New York City of the Maya world. It was the most important city-state for nearly 600 years and a center for trade with other Maya cities. So far, archaeologists have only uncovered 6 square miles of its 25-mile sprawl, yet they've found more than 3,000 temples, palaces, markets, and other buildings. In ancient times, the buildings were often stuccoed a brilliant red or white, with sculptures painted in bright colors. By 900 AD, Chichen Itza was the leading Maya city. Its Temple of the Warriors was guarded by 200 columns depicting soldiers. Now, an army of archaeologists and their staffs are trying to piece together the enormous jigsaw puzzle that is Chichen Itza today. The Grand Pyramid at Chichen Itza, which is 79 feet tall, is positioned so when the sunlight hits it at the time of the spring and fall equinoxes, a serpent seems to slither down the stairs. This isn't surprising, because the Maya were great astronomers. They studied the movements of the stars and planets, and could even predict eclipses of the sun and moon. They used their knowledge of astronomy and mathematics to develop 3 interlocking calendars, including one with 365 days. The Maya thought of these calendars as wheels which worked together to help them plan the best times to plant crops and conduct rituals.
The Maya never used the wheel to make their pyramids or haul stuff around. That wasn't because they hadn't invented it. They had. But to them, it was sacred, not to be used every day. The really strange thing is, they did put wheels on kids' toys. Archaeologists are still trying to figure out why the Maya made life so difficult for builders and so easy for kids.
The year was 1839. An American diplomat and writer named John Lloyd Stevens and his friend Frederick Catherwood, an artist, had heard stories about fabulous ruins hidden in the jungles of Central America. At that time, few people had ever heard of the Maya. Stevens and Catherwood determined to find their lost cities and reveal them to the world. Of course, it was easier said than done. Nobody had been near some of these places in centuries, and the jungle had taken over. The heat was terrible, and the insects were worse. Both of the men got very sick, but they kept on going and discovered more than 36 ancient cities. Why, their books were as popular as our blockbuster films, and people got really excited about this lost civilization. Now, Stevens and Catherwood didn't dig up anything, but their work began archaeology's quest to understand the Maya. As methods became more scientific, people started to study the glyphs or picture symbols the ancient Maya left behind. Speaking of which, Stephanie, my detective in training, has been trying to copy some glyphs for a while now. Let's see how she's doing. Hey, Steph, that looks pretty good.
Thanks, but this is hard. I don't see how they wrote like this. It would have made homework last forever. How many different glyphs are there?
Oh, about 500 or so. And did you know that the Maya were one of only 5 civilizations to develop a written language? And they wrote on everything, in books, on pottery, on the walls of their city, kind of like graffiti.
Hey, I thought graffiti was bad. But if the Maya hadn't have written on their walls, we wouldn't know much about them today.
Good point. But Maya writing wasn't exactly like our graffiti. It was beautiful and became part of the architecture. They also used to carve the images of their rulers on great stone slabs called stelae, and then inscribe the history of the kings below that. We've learned so much about them from these stelae, and there's a really nice collection of them at the University of Pennsylvania Archaeology and Anthropology Museum. My good buddy, Dr. Christopher Jones, can show us some. Want to meet him?
Sure.
This is the king. He looks very young. We're not sure how old he actually was, but his head is very large compared to his body. He might have still been an adolescent when he ascended the throne.
On this stele from the ancient city of Piedras Negras, a woman, probably the young king's mother, stands below him looking up.
It's as though she is making very certain that it is her son who comes to the throne rather than the son of one of the other queens.
On the side of the stele is a small inscription which helped unlock the secrets of the Maya glyphs.
This is the first hieroglyphic inscription that we were able to decipher from the Maya writings, and that was about 30 years ago. We found out that the inscription is telling us the exact day on which the king climbed up to the throne and sat down.
passing of power from one king to another was an important ritual to the Maya. These beautiful paintings, found in a temple in the ruined city of Bonampak, depict a king presenting his son and heir to the people. When the paintings were discovered in 1946, scholars were shocked. Most archaeologists had considered the Maya a peaceful people, yet here were bloody scenes of war and human sacrifice. But it's important to remember that to the Maya, human sacrifice was a sacred act, a way to maintain order in the universe.
The Maya loved to bathe. Every morning, they took a bath before going off to the fields, and another one before eating dinner. The Spanish couldn't believe how often the Maya bathed. They thought all this washing and steaming had rubbed the white pigment right off of their skin, and that's why it was brown.
If you visit Central America and the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, you can also find clues to the ancient Maya in some of the people who live here today. There are still many descendants of the Maya in this area, continuing the traditions of their ancestors and speaking their ancient language. They carry their bundles on their backs, with the weight resting on the head just like they did long ago. They build houses with thatched roofs and grow corn on the terraced hillsides. The Maya still use a planting stick to make a hole in the ground for each seed. And they also raise bees for honey, just like their ancestors did. In parts of the Maya world, the women weave brightly colored cloth on looms similar to the ones used in ancient times. Maya markets are lively places. The people spread out their goods in the town square. When the Spanish came, missionaries converted many of the Maya to the Roman Catholic faith. But some of the old religious customs continue side by side with the Christian ones. On the steps of this church, a shaman or Maya priest lights candles to bring the rain spirits. Today, many Maya families prepare dinner in a way similar to their ancestors more than 1,000 years ago. First, they chop wood to make a fire. Corn is still the most important food, as in ancient times, the Maya soak it first and then grind their corn on a volcanic stone called a metate. Then it's ready to make into tortillas. Maya farmers were the first to cultivate the cacao or cocoa bean, the papaya, and the avocado. Like the Maya today, they would roast plantains on the fire, which taste a lot like bananas. And they were among the first to raise turkeys for food. Tonight, this Maya family enjoys a soup made with turkey and vegetables, along with tortillas, of course.
The ancient Maya didn't have money like our coins and bills. Instead, they used cacao or chocolate beans. And if you were really rich, you showed off your wealth by drinking a cup full of money or hot chocolate.
Hey, how's the research coming?
Great, these ancient Mayas are pretty cool. Did you get the stuff for the party?
Yeah, take a look. This is gonna be great.
We're going to a costume party as ancient Mayas. We better hurry up. What first?
Tattoos. All Maya men and women tattoo their bodies. Hey, the more the better.
But their tattoos weren't instant like these. They were painful to do, sort of like real tattoos today. People who had lots of them were thought to be especially brave because they'd had to endure so much suffering.
Well, I'm brave to let you paint me. Paint was as popular as tattoos. Young men who weren't married painted themselves black.
After marriage, you could use other colors too. But red was most common.
Hey, pretty cool. Red and black. Those were the colors worn by Maya warriors.
Only problem is, you've got short hair. Maya men wore their hair long. Short hair was a sign of a prisoner.
Well, speaking of which, we need to fix your hair. Before a girl was married, her hair was either swept up into a braid or a few horn-shaped buns. Good luck.
Okay, anything else?
Earrings for both of us. Ouch.
Other signs of beauty included crossed eyes, a sloping forehead, and a head that's been squeezed during infancy into a long, narrow shape. Want to give it a try?
That sounds kind of painful.
Well, you're in luck. If we don't hurry, we'll be late for the party.
Okay, don't forget to cross your eyes.
In almost every Maya city uncovered by archaeologists, there's a green space near the center. It's a ball court, the sacred place where the Maya would play their favorite game.
It was a volleying game, back and forth and back and forth. In fact, they called the game pok ta pok, which is perhaps the sound that the ball made on the court. Pok ta pok ta pok.
Playing the game kept the warriors in shape between battles. The ball was made of solid rubber, a Maya invention, and it weighed about 8 pounds. So the rules of the game protected the Maya. They could only hit the ball with the hips, which were covered by a yoke.
The opponent would serve the ball, and it would bounce in front, and then come up and hit this yoke and bounce off.
To the ancient Maya, their game was sacred, a religious ritual. Archaeologists think that sometimes the men even played for their lives, and the losers were sacrificed. Today, only the ball courts remain, while the descendants of the Maya play soccer instead. As you can see, we've sure learned a lot about the Maya, and we continue to be impressed by their great accomplishments, their mastery of astronomy, the beauty of their art and architecture. But one central mystery remains. What happened to the great Maya cities? The last date we find recorded at Copan is 822. At Tikal, it's 869. More than 1,000 years ago, the Maya abandoned their great cities. Why? Some scholars think the people no longer believed in their leaders, or some of the city-states destroyed each other in fierce battles, or maybe the land around the cities had lost its fertility from overuse and could no longer support large populations. Probably the answer is a mixture of all these reasons. In any case, the golden age of the Maya was over by the year 900. Oh, some cities to the north survived and even thrived for centuries longer. But when the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, the great days of the Maya were only a memory. But what a wonderful puzzle they've left us to solve. We've finally come to appreciate that the Americas had great ancient civilizations too, worthy of comparison with ancient Greece and Egypt. I can't wait to get back to Central America and dig some more. Who knows what we'll uncover next? See ya.